Hey guys, and welcome back to Eternal Ring. My name is Rob, and this is part 13, I want to say, of the Let's Play, and I'm going to be doing the remainder of the sealed dungeon today. I decided to just do this post-commentary because while I was playing, you'd see me bringing up my menu a lot. That's me looking at a map, just trying to get through it. Yeah, looking at a map on GameFAQs that somebody drew on like a Word document. But yeah, so this is the second level in the sealed dungeon. As you can see, enemies are invisible running around here, and it's kind of got this mossy look to it, kind of simulating a forest, I guess. I ended up getting confused and going in a circle at one point, but I ended up getting on track and going to the next level of the dungeon. But apparently farming enemies here, you can get a lot of really good gems, as well as a lot of good dragon horns, which will allow you to permanently boost your stats, depending on what type you got. I didn't sit here and really farm for much. I was more concerned about just kind of getting through this part and, you know, moving on with the game. I didn't want to just sit here and, you know, farm for gems. I also didn't want to become too OP. By the time I end up finishing this dungeon, I'll be plenty strong enough to beat the game anyway. So, yeah, you can see these rat guys, or just little flames on the tip of their tails kind of running about. And I'm just kind of like, oh, where do I go? Yeah. The boss fight coming up is, I don't know if intense is the right word. I was tense. I was very tense because it's like this boss with 4 wizards surrounding him. Now, he moves pretty slow. It wasn't what I was expecting. It's more of a humanoid type of boss. But it's got these 4 wizards, and they're constantly casting like lightning spells, and they do really good damage. I end up burning through 2 rings of sacrifice. I had to think of the word. And well, I ended up using 1 dragon egg. So, I mean, all in all, I didn't use too much of anything I wouldn't need. Considering it's the hardest boss in the game, I was like, well, you know, might as well use my best items in this fight. And, you know, if I can do this, I can definitely beat the final boss of the game. So, running around, finally found that warp point, and I'm able to go to the next level of this dungeon, which is a snow area. And here I am looking at the map again, which was very confusing considering it was just made with characters from a keyboard. Like somebody actually took all like different symbols and markings to create the map, which is impressive considering, you know, they did that, but it's not very user-friendly. But back in the day, before there were user guides on YouTube and stuff like that, GameFAQs.com, or Game FAQs, rather, that's the website you would go to for your guides and walkthroughs, and you would have to read things and be able to, you know, put that together with what you were seeing. Now we got one of these skeleton guys here, which I decided I would just skip on. It actually looks just like the boss of this place, except it's a different color. And the main boss is way stronger. He can kill you. He wasn't able to one-shot me, but he was able to knock me down from full health to like just over 20 health. And these guys here, the blue version of these guys, very annoying. Did a ton of damage. I had to be very careful about not getting hit. But anyway, yeah, you would go to GameFAQs.com and you look for your guide or your walkthrough, and we were really happy to have that to help us get through certain games or, you know, find secrets in games, because I can remember looking on websites for video games as a kid. And remember, this is back when the internet was fairly new. And you would find a lot of unreliable information, like people just putting up stupid things to do in games, like you're supposed to unlock some really cool secret. Like one that sticks out in my mind quite a bit is if you ever played Final Fantasy VI, and Aaron, if you're listening in on this, my buddy Aaron over at Crosby Classic Gaming, If you've been watching my videos, you need to check his stuff out. It's got some really good content, doing a playthrough of Judgment and Catherine Full Body Edition. Excellent stuff from Aaron. But anyway, you'll know what I'm talking about, man. Back when we looked at cheats for Final Fantasy VI and tried to find a way to revive the character Leo after he is slain by the main villain. And of course there would be some ridiculous something that it would say you had to do, like you had to fight this particularly like really hard enemy in an optional area and kill like, I don't remember if it was 1,000 or 2,000 or what, some ridiculous number. You see me getting absolutely destroyed here. There's remember that giant rooster boss, the cockatrice? They are in this level as regular enemies. They will give you 14,000 experience each, and they can shoot their projectiles through walls. I didn't want none of that, so I just kept moving. But anyway, they would tell you to do like meet some ridiculous requirement to get some, you know, hidden item. And yeah, you'd be able to use that item to revive Leo, which you only get to play as him for like a very short part of the game, and he's really cool. But yeah, turns out wasn't true. Sat there for an entire Saturday killing that enemy, and I don't know if I ever actually made it to the I don't know if I killed the amount of the particular enemy that I was supposed to in order to get them to drop that item. But I remember eventually like looking at other websites and seeing if it was true or not. Really, I did that like sometime later, but I eventually just kind of gave up on it, thinking that, you know, it's probably not true, because, you know, after spending hours fighting those things and only for them to drop nothing of any use to me, I was just kind of like, this isn't worth it, this sucks. Can't remember the name of the enemy, but it's in a very specific forest towards the end of the game that it's like, it only spawns these particular dinosaur-looking enemies, and you have to kill them, and they're like some of the toughest enemies in the game. So, yeah. Yeah, game facts, because you really can't find a whole lot on Eternal Ring. You know, that's the thing with games that were kind of niche and not all that popular when they came out. You're not going to find a ton of guide information on them. So, you know, I'm using GameFAQs.com just to get through this and to kind of relearn how to make certain rings, which by the end of the game I kind of had that figured out, and I was able to get, you know, the main stuff I wanted. Walking through the snow area, you find a lot of wounded lizard men. I just kind of leave them alone there, because I'm mainly only looking for the thing that'll get me to the next area. Fighting more of these guys, which are extremely annoying. I don't care for them at all. But eventually, I end up finding the next warp pad, and that area has some really interesting music. It's unique to anything else in the game. It's got its own specific music to go along with it. It's dark, creepy looking. It's appropriate. Getting those dragon horns. Yeah, you can farm enemies for those things and just keep using them to boost your stats as high as, I think a stat maximum is like 255 or something. But the individual dragon horns only raise a particular stat up 3 times, so you would have to farm for a long time to max out your stats. And I was reading on the guys like, well, you can farm until you max out all your stats, and like, why would you do that? This game is not that hard. It's really not. Even this area, which is the hardest area in the game, was not that bad. You see me bringing up my menu again. This is literally me just looking at the map. So, yeah. At level 38, I think I finished the game at level, just over level 40, maybe like 41, 42, something like that. In the next video, I'm just going to go ahead and say the next video is going to be the finale. It's where I finish the snow area and then go towards the final boss of the game. Which, admittedly, is a little anticlimactic, but gotta remember, this is very early from Soft. This came out all the way back in 2000, and, you know, I wouldn't think it had a huge budget like something that would have come out from, like, Square Enix, which used to be in the year 2000, Square Enix was Squaresoft. Enix and Square hadn't merged yet. So, yeah, this, might as well have been an indie game. It wasn't. I mean, it was, a major publisher and everything, but, still, this is kind of how indie games are today. They're, a lot of times more simple, less grandiose than a AAA title, but no less good, for sure. I'm just watching myself get so directionally confused here. It's like everything looks the same. It's hard to differentiate where you've been, especially with enemies that respawn. I'm not sure if this guy had respawned or not, but he was there and he was by himself, so I figured it's a good opportunity to get some decent gems or a dragon horn, or if nothing else, just the experience points for killing him. Which they're not hard to kill, they're just much stronger versions of a really easy enemy. There he goes. Alright. I found the warp pad. Kind of thought for a second, I'm like, I wonder if this is going to warp me backwards, but it didn't. It warped me forwards. Now we're kind of in a dark, creepy cave here. And I'm looking at the map. This is actually a very simple map. It's not a maze or anything like the first ones were. It's pretty straightforward. I do an optional side area on this particular floor. And then I ultimately, there's not much to see or explore, to be honest with you. There's really easy ways to get killed, and there are no save points in this sealed labyrinth, I should say. So it's just kind of a gauntlet. You gotta do it from start to finish. And I didn't feel like just wandering around, wasting my resources. Which is what would have ended up happening. Sitting here yawning. It's been a long day of recording. And now doing voiceovers, post commentary. You always have these awkward pauses here. I'm not sure if I went to the bathroom or what. I just picture myself staring at my phone like, oh, what do I do next? Okay. So finally picking back up and going in this area off to the side. There's, some enemies here. And try to find them to see if I can get them to drop anything good. There's a couple of these, I call them ninja guys. They're casting spells at me that will silence me for a certain amount of time. And thankfully the spell isn't terribly long range, so it allows me to try and fight these crabs here, which have a ton of health, and they don't recharge very much magic at all. I kind of ended up wasting my time with this, but, you live and you learn. As you can see, I just got hit with the spell that locked out my magic. But thankfully, at this distance, those guys do not decide to rush in, so I'm able to just fight this crab one-on-one. And he is not dying easily. He's a tough crab. Kinda wish I had some crab. Some nice lump crab meat. Better yet, some lump crab meat on top of a steak with some kind of nice cream sauce. That'd be good. Always thinking about food. I'm a bit of a foodie, so if my mind wanders, it usually wanders towards something I want to eat. Had a guy ask me the other day what my favorite foods were. Man, to me that is such a difficult thing to pick. But in hindsight, I gave him a list of things that I really like, but I did not mention pizza. And pizza is absolutely one of my favorite foods ever. I mean, any kind of pizza. That includes, the, your fast food pizza, like Domino's and Pizza Hut, things like that. We have a regional chain in Louisiana, which has recently opened up a couple of places in Mississippi called Johnny's Pizza. It's really good. I really like that one. Also like the brick oven pizza stuff. In Shreveport, Louisiana, there's a restaurant called Frank's, which does the brick oven pizza as well as different gourmet dishes. And the brick oven that they have is a brick oven that was actually imported from Italy. So, whether that makes a big difference or not, I don't know. But it's really good, like, fancy pizza. Love that stuff. And you can get brick oven pizza in Jackson, Mississippi as well, from a place called Aplo's. They make really good ones. But also some Chicago deep dish pizza. There's, I've never actually been to Chicago and eaten the deep dish there, but there's a restaurant in Chicago that occasionally my wife and I will special order, frozen versions of their pizzas from. It's called Giordano's. And I think it's pretty legit because it is really, really good. It's like this deep dish, like this pie crust with like the cheese is layered on the bottom and then the meat and then the sauce on top. And it's very different from other pizzas, but so good, so delicious. Sitting here thinking about it, we have a couple in the freezer. I might actually have to heat one up for supper here in a bit. I'm sitting here just, jabbing at this stupid crap. I can't think of anything to say relating to the game, so I've got to just come up with stuff to say. But other than pizza, I told this guy some of my other favorite foods would be gumbo, since I'm a Louisiana guy, and I'm talking like real gumbo. Unfortunately, whenever you order gumbo in a restaurant, it's very hit or miss, and most of the time it's not legit like good gumbo. The best gumbos you'll ever have is like homemade, like what somebody's, grandma made. And whether it's legit like Cajun or whether it's somebody from North Louisiana, different people make gumbo a little differently, but it's all delicious. As long as, the main thing that you gotta have is a nice roux. Some people put okra in their gumbo. Personally, I really like that. I love okra in my gumbo. Some people will tell you that that's absolute sacrilege. I don't see how it is. There's different versions of gumbo that use different things as thickening agents. Some people like to use gumbo filet, which is a powder you can buy. Some people, make the roux. Some people use okra. Some people even add tomatoes to their gumbo, which, most people don't. And some people, again, that's another thing, like, why would you ever do that? But it's good. I've had it made that way, and it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, it doesn't belong in gumbo. Man, shut up. You can make gumbo in multiple different ways. There's a few things it's got to have. That's a roux. It's got to have celery, onions, and bell peppers. And that's the main thing. It's usually some type of meat. I like sausage gumbo just fine, or chicken, or shrimp, stuff like that. Some people get fancy and they put like whole crabs in their gumbo. I don't have to have all that personally. Even just a good chicken sausage gumbo is just fine with me. And shrimp is nice too. One of the best gumbos I've ever had actually was one that my wife made, which was strictly a shrimp gumbo. Very dark roux. She worked very hard on it. She probably cooked that roux for 45 minutes to an hour maybe, without burning it, just constantly stirring. Like, it was definitely a labor of love, and I'll never forget how good it was. And the recipe she was using was from a Louisiana cookbook, and it called for adding some nutmeg. I'd never heard of putting nutmeg in gumbo, but she did, and it turned out freaking amazing. I've never had better gumbo. And you see I just got a ring. It's called Animated Sword. And what that does, it allows you to strike multiple times with one press of the button in rapid succession. It's basically turning your regular attack into rapid fire. So it is very helpful. It's OP, even with weapons that are not the strongest in the game. And somehow or another, I accidentally unequipped my sword, so I'm pressing the attack button, and I'm like, why isn't it doing anything? But I figured that out here in a few seconds. Other than gumbo and pizza, goulash is another big one. And I'm not talking about what you'll hear a lot of people refer to as goulash. If your goulash consists of macaroni noodles and hamburger meat. That is not goulash. Sorry. You can call it American goulash if you want to, and I'm not hating on it, but it's not the goulash as I understand it. I'm talking about the real Hungarian goulash that you get from Hungary, which I've never actually had it from Hungary, but my dad's Hungarian, and he knows how to cook it, as well as my great aunt, who is Austrian. So I grew up eating this stuff, authentically made. It uses cubed beef or pork, usually fatty pieces, like if you see like stew meat or something in the grocery store, if it's marbled well, has like nice streaks of fat in it, you want that in there. I know some people are kind of turned off by the idea of, a lot of fat in their food, but it's flavor. And you can see I just got the Kaiser Knuckles as well, which is the highest attack power weapon in the game. However, the caveat to that is it lowers all your other stats, so your spells are not going to be nearly as good, nor are your elemental defenses. So it's kind of a two-edged sword, but look at the attack boost I get there. Over 100. That's pretty wild. And with the animated sword added on there, it's kind of like the, reminds me of the punch from like Doom 1 and Doom 2 in those games. And with the addition of the animated sword ring, it's like when you grab the Berserker item in Doom, and then you can just punch things in like almost one-shot everything. It ends up making this boss much easier. But anyway, we're talking about goulash. It's made with like, the meat. You add a ton of onions browned into it, and paprika. A lot of people will say you need to add tomatoes and stuff. No goulash, no authentic goulash from its like home turf, like Hungary and Austria and places like that, or even Poland. I mentioned I like to joke with my dad because he gets really defensive about it, and I was like, hey, goulash was first created in Poland, right? He's like, what did you say, boy? I'm gonna slap you. It's funny. Hungarians are really passionate about their goulash, but yeah, serve it over these kind of noodle dumpling things called, in German they're called Spätzle. In Hungary, I think they're called Nokrolls or something like that, but yeah, it's kind of like a small dumpling kind of thing. Almost like gnocchi, but even smaller than that. And texture is slightly different. It's usually served with that, and it's just one of those good, it's like a comfort food. So anyway, before I talk about another one of my favorite foods, here is the hardest boss in the game, surrounded by all of these wizards which I am trying to punch, and not having any luck with. I am getting my ass handed to me here. Their spells do so much damage, and they inflict curse on you, which I forget what curse does. I think it just lowers your attack power or something. I'm just like, I'm about dead here. And I almost die a couple of times, and only because I have the Rings of Sacrifice am I able to survive. Like right there, and I end up using the Dragon Egg. I use one of them, because I desperately need more magic, so I start attacking the main boss there, with apparently 25,000 hit points. One hit from him, and that like just shredded all my health away. So, I'm like, oh, what do I do now? So I start looking at my items and thinking like, what the hell can I even do? I use that golden fruit, which the health boost from that is short-lived because I get hit with spells. It was a mistake to go in trying to only target the main boss. You have got to kill these wizards first. And I finally decided to just start throwing tornadoes at them, and that's the most effective strategy I found. Was to do that. They don't have a ton of health, they just do a crap ton of damage. And that's the gist of that. You're going to watch me run around in circles, you got to constantly move, throw your spells, your strongest spells at these wizard guys, try to kill them. They seem to be immune to physical attacks when I tried to hit them. It didn't seem like it was doing anything. Anyway, other than pizza, gumbo, and goulash, some of my other favorite foods. A good steak. I absolutely love a good steak. And with that, I also include prime rib. I know it's not quite the same, but I throw it. I lump it all in there. You know, I love a good steak. Other than prime rib, I think a ribeye is probably my favorite steak out of all of them. Not much of a filet mignon guy. It's not bad, I do like it, but I prefer my steak to have a little fat in it, and ribeyes tend to have that without being like overly fatty or anything. Yeah, just a good medium rare steak. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, for me, just, you know, salt it, pepper it, sear it off, I'm good to go. But please, for the love of God, do not serve the thing to me well done. Definitely don't prefer that. Especially if it's a good steak. Good quality. Because, you know, I'm just not into that. Although I will say, I have had ribeyes in the past, which were cooked done and yet still tender. And if you can achieve that somehow, that's difficult to do. Most steaks will dry out and toughen up really bad if you cook them all the way through. But I have had a couple, there's been a couple of instances I can remember where I tried somebody else's steak that was well done, that was still managed to be tender. So, I mean, that's still good. You know, no problems there. Yeah, not much else to say about steak. I love a good ribeye. And other than that, sushi. Sushi is one of my absolute favorite foods now. I was talking about that earlier in, I think in my live commentary for the final episode. Yeah, I mentioned sushi there. I like some of the raw stuff, like fresh salmon sushi is wonderful. Salmon roe sushi, which are the salmon eggs. I've recently decided to try, you can get the salmon roe sushi with a raw quail egg on top. I know, sounds really weird, and it probably sounds disgusting to a lot of people, but hey, I freaking love it. I think it's delicious. Good Philly roll, which is smoked salmon, avocado, and cream cheese. I love those a lot. What else? Basically anything with raw salmon or tuna or yellowfin, anything like that. Not yellowfin. Is it yellowtail? I think yellowfin is a particular type of tuna. Yellowtail is a different type of fish altogether. I don't know. I forget, honestly. I like that stuff. With cooked rolls, I don't do cooked rolls most of the time. I don't hate them or anything. I just tend to prefer the raw stuff. It's a really good sushi place I eat at in Jackson, Mississippi called Edo. It's E-D-O. And man, they've got some good stuff. Always have great service too. I love eating there. Yeah, they're generous with their portions and the size of their sushi rolls and everything, and I never leave from there unsatisfied. Highly recommend it. But yeah, those are some of my favorite foods. Definitely. That, and I love Mexican food. And by Mexican food, I mean like the greasy, super unhealthy like Tex-Mex. Although I do also really like Mexican street tacos and the like authentic Mexican burritos you can get from certain places if you look hard enough. Whenever you're looking for a good Mexican restaurant that isn't Tex-Mex, if all the workers are Mexican, including the person at the cash register that barely speak any English, and most of the people eating there are Mexican or Hispanic of some kind, and they're ordering their food in Mexican, and the menu's in Mexican, in Spanish rather. I'm a racist. It's not the Mexican language, it's the Spanish language. It's funny. I'm not a racist, by the way. I just, you know, don't get triggered by things that I say. But yeah, I love authentic Mexican food like that. What else? Breakfast. I like omelets. Nice savory breakfast foods. Breakfast burritos, eggs, bacon. Which here lately, since I'm trying to eat a little less unhealthy, I've started eating a lot of turkey sausage instead of regular sausage or bacon. And it's actually grown on me quite a bit. I think it's pretty good. Usually tastes good. It's not as greasy. Certain breakfast sausages you can buy have entirely too much fat. And especially like a good example of that's like the Carolina Pride brand. Way too much fat to meat ratio. It's just, ugh. It's like basically getting a mouthful of pork fat when you eat it. Not in a good way. Not in the same way that bacon is. Store-bought sausage. Tennessee Pride is probably my favorite, with Jimmy Dean being very close runner-up. They're both excellent. Well, I've gabbed on about food for a while. Hope that's been entertaining, because what you see in this boss fight is what you get. There isn't much to see. I managed to kill the wizards with the tornado spell, and now I'm just trying my best to kite this guy and not die. As you can see, he struck me a few times, which he could almost one-shot me, except I usually end up with like 20-30 health left, and that's just enough for me to get away, heal myself, and get back in. Kaiser Knuckle, I don't know how much damage it's doing, but apparently this boss has 25,000 health, and he actually went down quicker than I thought he would. So, for whatever that's worth. That little bird that keeps flying out, I don't know what it actually does. I don't know if it damages me or what. But after forever, I finally take him down, and wouldn't you know it? Does that thing look familiar? It's called the Eternal Sword, but we all know what it looks like. Moonlight Greatsword. Which at the time when Eternal Ring came out, Moonlight Greatsword existed in... I'm pretty sure it's in the Kingsfield games, which came out before this. And then, of course, it eventually showed up in Demon Souls and Dark Souls and all those games. And I'm pretty sure it's also in Elden Ring, if I'm not mistaken. But it raises... It's not nearly as high attack power as the Kaiser Knuckles, but it does raise all of your elemental attributes. So your magic and magic defense will be much better than it was. I guess the elemental attributes also cover defense, I would think. Either way, it enhances your spells, so that's what it looks like with just a regular hit. But I end up putting on the Animate Sword ring, and I just keep that on for the rest of the game, and it's like just super OP. It turns you into basically a lawnmower. You just get up to an enemy, spam attack, and it just messes them up. And that is the Sealed Labyrinth. Kind of rushed to the boss there. Wasn't much else to find, I don't think. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me do that and listening to me talk about my favorite foods. What are some of your favorite foods? Do you like steak or gumbo or goulash or anything like that? Do you like sushi? Do you like raw sushi? Do you like cooked sushi? What do you like? Do you like beanie weenies and boxed mac and cheese? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've seen. I will see you soon with the finale to Eternal Ring. Until then, y'all take care.